Playoffs, baby, playoffs, baby, playoffs, baby. The playoffs are finally here. I shouldn't say that word in the intro. Nevertheless, it is true. But in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to the Wolves versus Suns game and the Magic versus Cavs game. I'm going to first start with the Magic Cavs game because there's not a whole lot to talk about in this one. I will say for this particular matchup, if you are a fan of 90s type basketball, then this is the series for you. What was the final score? It was 97-83. 83 points in a playoff game. That's pretty wild. Of course, the Suns were held to 95, but we'll get to that in a little bit. 97 from the Cavs, which isn't all that special, but for the most part, this was a game that the Cavs had control of for a majority of it. There was a stretch in the middle of the game where the Magic were slowly creeping back up, and then it's almost like the Cavs just hit their stride, and from there, it was kind of over. They started the game off 5 for 5 from 3. I believe Max Strus hit one, Donovan Mitchell hit one, and then, of all people, Evan Mobley hit 2 of them. Didn't hit another 3 for the rest of the game, but I would say that if that's something that we can anticipate on any level, then that is something that will swing this series, because the ability just to leave him wide open is a huge advantage to the defense, but if that's not actually something they have at their disposal, well, that's a huge problem. And, you know, throughout this game, after he hit those 2 3-pointers, I felt like the Magic were a little bit more respectful of Evan Mobley's ability on the perimeter. They weren't leaving him fully wide open. They definitely were not like treating him like he was Steph. Definitely more respect for him on the perimeter than he otherwise would have garnered. So yeah, if he keeps hitting that, that's a huge deal. But I felt like the Magic in general did a poor job defending the 3-point line in that stretch, and they really stepped it up, because from there, the Cavs went 0 for 13 on their next 13 attempts, which definitely allowed Orlando to creep their way back up, despite the fact that they were not scoring the ball particularly well. 2 players in particular I need to talk about with the Magic here that really irked me in this one, and that was Franz Wagner and Cole Anthony. They were both terrible in this one. Franz finished with 18 points. His field goal percentage was fine, but he was breaking open 3-pointers. He missed and took a bunch of dumb, ill-advised layups. He got 3 blocks, which is cool, but in general, there was just a lot of possessions where it felt like he was forcing it, and the offense was just dreadful because of it. The other player that I mentioned, Cole Anthony, played 11 minutes, got up 7 shots, didn't make a single one of them, and almost none of them were even really good attempts. There was probably 2 out of those 7 shots that I would say he had any business taking in the first place. So yeah, big L's on that front. So something that I speculated on in the last video when I talked about this series was that potentially John Isaac would actually get more minutes, and that they were kind of like shelving him for the postseason. Like, you're only going to play 15 minutes a game during the season, but when the postseason comes around, we're going to utilize you more. Well, that seems to be exactly what they did, because they decided to start him at center, and I'd say he did a pretty good job, all things considered. Not necessarily some game changer, but he did the job well. I don't necessarily know if he's like so much better of an option than Wendell Carter, but maybe I'm wrong. He did get 6 stocks in this one, did a very good job protecting the rim, did not rebound the ball well, and that was a disparity that I was a little concerned about. I'm actually curious. 40-54 in the rebound department, and offensive rebound wise it was 10-11, so that one wasn't that different. But either way, sizable differential in the rebounding there, and John Isaac only pulled down 5 boards, so you could argue that was a little bit of an L there. Not that Wendell Carter is some amazing rebounder otherwise. Offensively, 2 for 4 from outside, hit 2 corner 3-pointers. That was something that I talked about as well with him, was that he has shot 47% from 3 over his last, like, I think it was 25 games or so. A small attempt volume, but like enough that it's like a sizable, worthy thing to take into consideration, and he hit those shots when he was given them, so that's good. One of them was even kind of a gutsy shot overall. Jalen Suggs probably shot the ball a few too many times, but his defensive presence was felt against Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They kind of switched it back and forth between them and Gary Harris. I feel like they were going to Suggs more and more as the game went along, but at the start there was a lot of Suggs on Darius. Not necessarily a strict assignment there. The Magic got very little production from their bench, other than 10 from Mo Wagner. Actually, Karis LeVert didn't have as good of a game as he had in my head, because he just had some cool plays. Never mind. Bad point, Jacob. Move on. Donovan Mitchell with 30 points. points. I do feel like he had to earn those points again because the defense was very good for both of these teams. And Evan Mobley, outside of hitting those three-pointers, did some good stuff inside the arc. He got a post hook on one of their big men. Who the fuck was it? Yeah, he got a post up on Wendell that he managed to hit the hook shot, I think, 2 different times. Oh, he also got posts up on Cole Anthony, and it was 2 different possessions where he just got the freest points in the world, where it seemed like not that the matchup initially was supposed to be Cole Anthony, but that the Magic were wholly unconcerned with that switch when they very much should have been. I realize that Evan Mobley's offensive game has been a little bit disappointing at this stage of his career. However, he can post up on Cole Anthony. I'm quite confident in that, and he is too, which is why he got a dunk and like an easy layup back to back when they did that. I was like, do you not plan on doing anything about that? Because there was enough time for help defense to rotate, and it just didn't. Because there was just no scramble whatsoever, it almost seemed like it was intentional. But that aside, as I mentioned, the Cavaliers started hitting their shots more and more as the game went along. Just to mention a couple of specific plays, there was a John Isaac block on Allen on the pick and roll, one of the 3 blocks that he got. Mitchell had 2 like very, very nice dimes to Jarrett Allen, one where he like spun off of a pick and then did like a wraparound pass to him, and then another one where Darius Garland passed it to him while he was cutting down the lane. He like went up in a way that suggests he was going to try to dunk it, and then brought the ball back down, wrapped it around to Allen. Both of these, Allen got a dunk. I think one of them was even an and one. So I think Donovan Mitchell's playmaking in general is something that we have not praised enough this year. So good on him there. Yeah, I put it in the Cole Anthony kind of sucks here. Why the fuck is Cole Anthony defending Mobley in the post? Allen in general in this game was feasting in the dunker spot. Got a lot of good opportunities at the rim for that reason. He finished with 16 points and 18 rebounds. Once the Cavs shooting came back, that was kind of the game. One positive that I would take away if I'm an Orlando Magic fan after this game is that, first of all, there was some crazy shooting variance in this one. In total, the Cavs did not shoot the ball very well, but they had stretches where they were just lights out. I don't know. This was a lot of these guys' first playoff game, and I feel like it could have been worse. And really, Paolo is the positive takeaway because he had a good ass performance. 24 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. That's pretty much exactly in line with his regular season averages. A little bit more efficient from the field, a little less efficient from 3 in the free throw line, but like overall, he had 9 turnovers. Oh shit, he had 9 turnovers. I would have guessed he had like 5. I didn't. Holy shit. Well, that part's not good, but if you just don't look at that part, ignore that. Just if you go on the NBA app, don't scroll all the way to the right, and you should be fine. Otherwise, excellent game from Paulo. Let's just go ahead and move on to the game that we're actually more interested in, which is the Timberwolves versus the Phoenix Suns. First things first, I gotta talk about in this game. I can't fucking believe the defensive choices that the Timberwolves made in this game. So that was a big thing that I speculated on. Not really, because I was just like, actually, I'm thinking of a different team. This is a big thing that I didn't speculate on really much at all, because I thought it was almost plainly obvious that Jaden McDaniels would defend Kevin Durant, but turns out it wasn't that plainly obvious. They wanted that matchup on Devin Booker, and for what it's worth, Devin Booker was completely iced out of this game, so it might have been the right move. But I can't believe they went with Karl Anthony Towns defending Kevin Durant. That was a bold ass decision. It kind of worked is the thing. Don't get me wrong, Cat didn't like give him trouble, but Durant also didn't just like abuse the matchup all game. He finished with 31 points on 11 for 17 shooting, which is 65% from the field, which is great efficiency. But honestly, the fact that he just got up 17 shots, obviously Kevin Durant has like the efficiency man meme around him, but like realistically, maybe Durant could have burned him a little bit more if he was more aggressive, but I feel like he took the opportunities when they presented themselves, and Cat otherwise just did a good job of not making life too easy for him. So that's huge, because that was the thing that we were all concerned about in this series, is where does Cat go? Who does Cat defend against that starting lineup? Do you put him on Grayson Allen, in which he's like having to defend a somewhat movement shooter, a guy who you don't want to leave open really in any capacity, and he still has his big man rim protecting instincts, even though he's not a very good one. You know, he still has that ingrained in him, so not necessarily as good of a perimeter defender against a pretty solid perimeter player, even if it's not one of the stars far is it still not good against Yusuf Nurkic, and it's like, okay, who the hell is Gobert defending? So Gobert has to defend Nurkic. So it was kind of a weird spot to be in. Probably was going to have to defend Grayson, but apparently he can defend Kevin Durant, or at least survive defending Kevin Durant. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to go for the rest of the series. When he was not on the floor, to be fair, everyone got a little piece of Kevin Durant, not just Cat. There was some Jaden McDaniels to close the game. There was some Nickeil Alexander-Walker in there. I think even a little bit of Anthony Edwards. And then Kyle Anderson was another one. Pretty much every Kyle Anderson minute was spent defending Kevin Durant on the defensive end. So yeah, that's the first thing. Weirdly kind of contained, they kept the Kevin Durant burn to a minimum. Meanwhile, Devin Booker, 5 for 16 from the field for 18 points. Jaden McDaniels just locked his ass up, and it really felt like most of the times that he scored in this game was when McDaniels wasn't defending him. They also got a decent performance from Royce O'Neal off of the bench. He got up 8 3-pointers in 26 minutes, which doesn't necessarily go along with Nick's theory that Royce just loves chucking or hates putting up 3-pointers. But if there's any bench performance to highlight in this game, it is from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, because what a difference he made for the Timberwolves. I expected him to be a huge difference maker because his defensive impact was huge, whether he was defending Booker or Durant. And then on the offensive end, he was playing very well. He went 7 for 12, 4 for 9 from outside. He also had 4 steals, which, the Timberwolves got in transition a decent amount in this game, and it really worked out for them quite well, and he played a part in that. What more can you ask for from a role player? He hit 4 3-pointers, played great defense, made good reads, scored inside the perimeter a little bit as well. Good shit there. So yeah, he was huge. I had talked about, I feel like he's going to eclipse Mike Conley's spot in the rotation, and, there wasn't the late game lineup to really look at because they were up by so much that it wasn't a dire late game lineup type situation. We didn't get to see that, but I would feel like based on, first of all, Nickeil played more minutes. Just on the flow of the game, it really felt like Nickeil would be in the closing lineup over Mike Conley. Mike Conley hit a really cool fadeaway. That was nice. He got 7 assists. That was nice, but otherwise didn't really contribute all that much. Meanwhile, Nickeil just absolutely killed it. Love Mike Conley, but I really feel like from a fit perspective and from the matchup perspective that Nickeil is just probably going to end up playing more minutes in the series. He played 1 minute and 21 seconds longer in this game. I feel like that might only increase as this goes along. Weirdly, a lot of Monte Morris minutes, and they went with a double point guard lineup with him and Mike Conley for pretty much all of those minutes. I don't know about that one, to be honest. I don't know if that is really a good idea. For what it's worth, they did have a positive net rating, but also for what it's worth, so did basically everybody else, except for Mike Conley actually did have a -8, which goes right along with my theory. But yeah, let me just point out some specific notes in this one. Cat also got some offense against Kevin Durant in the post because Kevin Durant was guarding him, which is something that I talked about, was do you want him to deal with that matchup and the physicality of it, or the post up and all that. It went 5 for 9, not a dominant performance, 19 points, but he made him pay in the post a couple of times. He got an and one on him where he flexed his muscles after. I don't think that Cat's significantly stronger than Durant, but there is enough of a gap there. Rudy Gobert hit all but one of his free throws, and he got to the free throw line quite a bit. Thank God I'm not neglecting to mention this. He hit a fadeaway, an and one at that, an and one fadeaway. Couldn't believe that shit. And then here in my notes, at about the third quarter, it's just all Anthony Edwards and me freaking out about Anthony Edwards because he scored 18 points in the third, and I don't think they were consecutive, but it felt pretty close to it. A lot of them were consecutive. Pull up 3-pointers, pull up mid-range shots. He did a fake off of a spin in that looked like it was going to be a fadeaway jumper, and then stepped to the side with his off foot, and this was still a legal move because it was essentially pivoting off of one and jumping off of the other for the shot, and then jumped off the other for a floater that he put in. This is all on Devin Booker. Crazy fancy play. Another spin jumper soon after that. I think a heavily contested pull-up jumper over Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was guarding Ant for a lot of these possessions as well, so he was honestly just getting absolutely just cooked by Anthony Edwards. Ant just went off in the third quarter, and that kind of solidified the game. You know, there was still a chance that the Suns could make a comeback going into that fourth. Didn't look like it was likely, though, and that was exactly that. And I think the thing is, because up until that outburst, the Suns were right there with them. I think that is the thing about the Phoenix Suns that makes you believe that they're a good team, but they ultimately are inherently going to fall short. They have the shot creation, they have the talent, and they have the consistency of that talent to kind of keep their head above water at all times, for the most part. But when it comes to actually sealing the deal, actually closing out the game, it ends up being not enough, especially as the intensity of the defense ramps up the closer you get to the end of the game. And, you know, that's evidenced by the fact that they were the worst fourth quarter team in the entire league, and I believe statistically, net rating wise, one of the worst of all time. And that was indicative in this game. You know, they held strong for a lot of it, but it really just felt like they were delaying the inevitable. And it also felt like that they had to work so hard just to delay that inevitable. So yeah, I'm feeling very good about my prediction for the Phoenix Suns to lose this series. I do think there is going to be a game in there where Kevin Durant and Booker just both cook from mid-range. Kevin definitely was. A bunch of shots he hit were ridiculous in this one. One of them was like over the most insane contest from like two defenders from two different angles. I think it was Gobert and McDaniels. Both of them came like within a couple of inches of the ball. Doesn't matter, bottoms. That's my reaction to this game. Feeling pretty all right about my predictions going into this one. This one I obviously got right, at least for the first game. But yeah, it's something I'm trying a little bit harder in my coverage this year. As you guys may or may not have noticed from the notepad, revolutionary. Let me tell you, the brain's association with memory and just writing things down, it's crazy. But anyways, all right, I am now reacting to the Knicks versus Sixers game. I just watched it. That's what we do here. I don't know why I felt the need to tell you that. That was kind of intrinsically obvious. Interesting game here, really close one pretty much throughout the whole way. I can't imagine there was more than like a 10-point deficit throughout the entire thing. Joel Embiid had himself a relatively decent game. His field goal percentage was not the best, but he got to the free throw line a lot. Made a lot of good reads. Easily the worst thing about this game from him is that he shot way too many three-pointers. He put up 8 in this game, and I feel like in general he just had way too eager to take that shot. Like, he took a couple of contested ones. One was a pull-up one where like he was like, I don't know if he like thought there was going to be a call, but like he got a backcourt violation and the whole arena erupted, but they didn't call it. And he took a pull-up like right over the defender. Maybe he just thought he had to, maybe he was shooting it, anticipating a whistle. I don't know. Either way, that wasn't great. He started off the game super hot. He hit a three-pointer, which I guess maybe gave him too much of an idea that he could keep doing it. But he got 2 and 1s back-to-back from there. There was like an acrobatic one where he kind of like spun and threw it up off the glass off of Isaiah Hartenstein. And then he got an and 1 on a post-up on OG. From there, he did a good job reading the defense whenever the pressure came, not panicking too much, didn't get too many turnovers. Got a couple of assists in this one. So overall, I'd say this was like a B- Joel Embiid performance. He definitely seemed more physically capable in this one than he did in the Miami Heat game, so hopefully that's a sign that he's going to continue to be better and better. As for the rest of the 76ers, Tyrese Maxey had himself a really good game. Kyle Lowry also essentially had a like vintage Kyle Lowry performance. He had 18 points, hit 4 3-pointers, hit a couple of clutch 3-pointers late as well. For the most part, after that, not a lot really working in Philadelphia's favor. Tobias Harris wasn't very good. Their role players really didn't step up all too significantly. So it was pretty much the typical Embiid and Maxey tandem with a nice showing from Kyle Lowry. On the Knicks side of things, this was a bad Jalen Brunson game. He scored 22 points on 26 shots. And honestly, I think the fact that they managed to win this game in spite of that should actually spell very positive signs for this series at large for them. Now, I don't necessarily think that that means that they're going to get a Miles McBride 20-piece off of the bench or a Josh Hart 20-piece every game, which definitely filled the scoring void that Brunson left behind. But at the very least, they held their own and managed to keep their head afloat. Brunson did hit a really clutch mid-range shot in the fourth quarter towards the end, but other than that, didn't really do much in that quarter. And Josh Hart was The MVP of this game for New York, Miles McBride, close second because he hit 5 3-pointers, I believe, maybe 6. He hit 4 in the first half, I do know that. I feel like he's the most underrated player on this team. In fact, probably not mentioned enough when we talk about this team. Obviously, he was not a huge part of the rotation going into the season, but as the year has gone along, he has become more and more prevalent. Even though he's a kind of small guard, he's a really hard-nosed defender, and for the most part, he does hit his open jump shots. I believe he's over 40% ever since he's gotten a decent stretch of games with big minutes, and he came right into this one and made a huge impact. I believe this is, if it's not its first playoff series, it's his first time being a big part of one, and he just came in there and was absolutely fantastic. But as I mentioned, Josh Hart being the Knicks MVP in this one, bunch of rebounds, a couple of them offensive. In general, the Knicks dominated the glass in this game. He hit a bunch of 3-pointers, a bunch of them in the fourth quarter, I think 3 or 4 of them, off of the dribble, off of like a step back, and it was just like, who are you? Because Josh Hart's normally not a very strong 3-point shooter. He's had times where he had signs of being like an actually good shooter, but for the most part, his career percentages are not very good. I believe he had a really good stretch when he was first traded to the Knicks, but he was not nearly as good from outside this season. Either way, though, hit him this game, and that made a real difference. 13 points in the fourth quarter, I think like just a couple of points, I think 3 points in every other quarter, but came alive in the fourth when they needed some shooting and needed some scoring because Brunson really wasn't getting the job done. Honestly, as for why Brunson wasn't getting the job done, I really don't think it was a matter of the defense from the Philadelphia 76ers. They did a good job, but it wasn't anything like substantial. It was just kind of like the shots that he's getting aren't going in. He did struggle to get to his spots more, as did Joel Embiid, which is a reason why I think he got up so many 3-pointers. Otherwise, you know, I feel like Brunson's probably going to be fine. I'm also not all too concerned about Embiid's efficiency. I think it's just going to be a matter of his health increasing as the series goes along. Got to the free throw line a bunch. I'm telling you, he's definitely going to have a positive true shooting after this one for like 28 points and a decent amount of rebounds and assists. So again, decent Embiid performance. Just to mention a couple of specific plays, Embiid injured himself, and it was thought it might actually be serious for a second because it looked bad, but he did a self alley-oop out of the post for a poster dunk on OG Anunoby, to which he like twisted his knee and fell on the ground. What a crazy fucking play. Cannot believe what I saw. So that was huge. One of the more impressive plays I've ever seen from him. I mentioned Maxey having a good game. Just drives and pull-up threes nonstop. They closed with Mitchell Robinson, which is interesting. That was something that we discussed a little bit forward going into this series. It's just like, or just for the Knicks in general, like what does their center rotation actually look like, because Isaiah Hartenstein has become like they're pretty much the starter. But Mitchell Robinson was really good in this game, so Tom Thibodeau decided to end the game with him. He had 4 blocks, was rebounding the hell out of the ball. He did get a putback that was like almost certainly an offensive interference, but other than that, great game from him. Yeah, Embiid a little too happy for threes, and then it's just Josh Hart. Brunson also threw a cross-court pass that was really impressive to OG for a 3. But other than that, yeah, this was pretty much exactly what I'm expecting this series to look like, save for the Brunson underperformance. Embiid and Maxey are going to get their shit off, but I think the Knicks just have a better, more well-rounded team. I think this is the second best team in the Eastern Conference. I am anticipating them meeting the Boston Celtics in the conference finals, but Philadelphia has a chance to make this an actually interesting series. Obviously, there's a lot of favor into the home court advantage with the Knicks. I feel like more so than most arenas. Not that people don't have a history of having good performances in Madison Square Garden when not actually playing for the Knicks, but you could feel the crowd intensity in this one. I always love the classic or the organ. I wish more NBA teams did that. Just the novelty and knowing that there's just a fucking guy up there going off is very fun. Not a lot to say about this one, despite the fact that it was a close and good game, but yeah, that is the video. I don't know how Nick is going to edit this in. Is he going to put the outro in? Whatever. Oh, also Nick is editing this video. He quickly came back from paternity leave to help me out because Rudy is occupied and I didn't want to edit because I have to watch other playoff games. So yeah, shout out to Nick for editing this video, but that is it. Goodbye.